Hey YouTube, John here, back with another unboxing video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the MJX X101 quadcopter. Now, ever since this quadcopter came out somewhere in the middle of last year, later into last year, I've wanted to get my hands on one, I've wanted to review one, and finally got the opportunity, so I'm taking advantage of it. Now, I picked this one up from an Amazon seller, and to be honest, I found that if you're buying a quadcopter from Amazon, they typically tend to bundle them a little better, especially if you're a beginner or if you're going to fly this quadcopter a lot. It's usually the way to go. I know this particular quad comes with 2 spare batteries, a Lipo checker. It also comes with a Lipo charging bag. You know, you're really going to be safe when you're charging these batteries because they can have thermal events and they can run away and cause a fire, and it's really not a good situation. And on top of that, this one also comes with the 720p FPV camera, which is a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi FPV that sends back to your smartphone, tablet, stuff like that. And on top of all that, if you're a Prime member, 2-day shipping. You know, so this thing, free shipping to my house in 2 days. It's just awesome. So why don't we get this thing opened up, see what comes in the box. We'll put it together. Maybe we'll install the phone app and take a look at that, and just get some overall first impressions of it. Now, personally, I've always been a big fan of MJX's stuff. All the MJX quadcopters that I've reviewed seem to be, you know, kind of a couple steps above the rest as far as fit and finish and just overall quality goes and quality control. So right in the top here, we have our Lipo safe or Lipo charging bag, and it's just a Velcro charging bag for putting your Lipo batteries in while you charge them. Definitely a good idea. If you're going to get in the RC hobby, get yourself a Lipo charging bag. I can't stress this enough. I mean, these batteries, you hear so many horror stories of you know, these things catching on fire while they're charging. You just best practice to get yourself one. Right under here, we have, I guess we'll start over here. We have our props. We have 2 full sets of props. And I'm curious to see what kind of lift these things create, because they kind of just look like your standard toy grade quadcopter prop. I semi-expected to find something more like the, say, the X6 Tarantula prop, but they should work good enough. We have a Lipo checker and low voltage beeper. So what you'll do is you'll just take your Lipo battery, plug it onto these header pins right here. Let me open it up. Yeah, you can see its label on the back there. So depending on how many cell battery you have, your ground goes here, and you'll just plug your balance port onto here, and it should show the voltage right on the front. So we'll dig a little bit deeper in here, and we have our batteries, and I believe there are 2 batteries in there, and they are 1200 milliamp hour, 7.4 volt, 2-cell batteries with a standard JST connector on there. So you have those 2 batteries. And this is going to be the cell phone mount for your transmitter. So this is how you'll mount your cell phone to the transmitter for Wi-Fi FPV. Have our landing gear right here. It feels a little flexible and flimsy, but pretty tall, so you should be able to fit a decent sized camera under there. It does state that it'll carry a GoPro and you know, GoPro clone, so that'd be kind of interesting to test that. Further down here, we have some tools, and oh, there's the sticks for the transmitter. I might as well pop them on. So just your standard small Phillips head screwdriver, and the 2 sticks for the transmitter. So pop those in. We might as well pull the transmitter out and see how that feels. And kind of your typical MJX, one of the better quality toy grade transmitters, I think. Has a ratcheting throttle, which is always nice. You know, the sticks feel really good. Have a couple shoulder buttons up here. Your rates button here. This is going to be an aileron and rudder flip-flop. So basically the cool thing about these MJX transmitters is you can switch between modes. Pretty much anywhere between mode 1 and 4. All you have to do is take these 2 levers, switch them up, and now this is your throttle. And this stick is spring-loaded, and then you just swap aileron and rudder. So definitely a cool MJX feature. And this is going to be your throttle control, your throttle limit, if you will. But we'll go over that in the full review when it comes time. We have our prop guards, so we'll test those out. They feel pretty sturdy. Pretty hard plastic though. I wonder if they'll be easily breakable. Back here we have just a bag of goodies. Looks like a camera plug, probably. Goes from a balance lead. Open this up. So yeah, it's a camera plug. Goes from the balance lead to the camera, so that must be how they power the camera on it. We have a little micro SD card. It is 4 gig. And then just an SD card reader to your SD card to USB adapter. Some random screws and a clip. I guess we'll find out what that's for. A little further in, we have the camera. So this is supposedly 720p. It's Wi-Fi FPV. So here's the Wi-Fi antenna right here. I'm not expecting great things from the Wi-Fi FPV. Probably some serious latency. But I'll be interested to try it out. It'll probably be good for lining up your shot. Pretty lightweight. We have our battery charger. Standard US adapter to balance plug, so they're charging it right through the balance port. Owner's manual, take a read through that. And then finally, the quadcopter. And some random screws. So, like I stated before, I mean, this one definitely doesn't depart from the standard MJX fit and finish. It feels nice, kind of a softer plastic, like a matte finish. Has an on-off switch, which is always nice. Larger brushed motors. Be interesting to see how long those last. And the camera mount is also the battery bay, which is awesome. Because one problem that you see with the Tarantula and a lot of these quadcopters are, especially in the toy grade market, is the cameras are so light that you tend to get a lot of jello out of them. Even with these little anti-jello mounts, you get a ton of jello out of the cameras. And it's strictly because there's no weight behind the camera. So it looks like what they've done is they've hung the battery off of the camera mount. That way you have the weight of the battery and the camera hanging off these anti-vibration mounts to get your jello reduction. So definitely a cool idea on MJX's part. So what we'll do is we'll get some batteries charging, and why don't we put this thing together and see how it looks. So the first thing we'll do is we'll mount the landing gear to get the quadcopter up off the bench. And all we're going to need to do that is the included screwdriver and just the small bag of medium length screws. There's some small screws, some larger ones, and some medium length ones. The medium ones go in for the landing gear. So you can see that we have an alignment dowel right here and right here on the landing gear. And those are going to line up with these holes right here on the arms of the quadcopter. So we'll just line those up and then run the screws right into these 4 holes. 2 there and 2 there. Do that for both landing gear and we'll move on to the props. Alright, so now that the landing gear's on, we'll go ahead and mount the props. And to mount the props, if you look at each arm, you'll see right there, that particular arm has an A with a clockwise running arrow. This arm has a B with a counterclockwise running arrow. If you look at the props on the underside, there it is right there, focus. There we go. There's an A on that prop. If we grab this prop right here, you'll see a B. So, kind of self-explanatory. You're going to put the A props on the A arms, the B props on the B arms. So all we'll have to do is take our B prop and our B arm, And you'll see on the prop shaft here, there it is, we have a little cross hole. And make sure I have the right prop. You're just going to go ahead and line the hole on the prop up with that cross hole. Can be a little fiddly to do this right. Once that's lined up, take your screw and just run it right in. Simple as that. And then just repeat this for all 4 props. Just making sure you put the A props on the A arms and the B props on the B arms. Now before we move on, I do want to mention, you'll probably notice when you put the props on that the props, you know, when you spin them, the motors feel kind of gritty and ratchety. It's strange, but it's perfectly normal for this style motor, so definitely nothing to worry about. So the next thing we'll do, if you're going to use them, we'll put the prop guards on. I typically like to use them for my maiden flights. Plus I like to record flight times with and without prop guards for my reviews. So I'm going to go ahead and throw them on. Just like the landing gear, you'll see that we have, in this case, 2 pegs and 1 center hole. The center hole is going to be for the screw, and these 2 pegs are going to mate right up to these 2 holes in each side of the prop with a center screw going right down the middle. So we'll just go ahead, take this, line it up, push the pegs down, and just like the props, there was a bag of screws that came in with the prop guard, so you can't mix them up with any other screws. You just go ahead and screw them right down. Repeat on all 4 corners. So now the final step here, if you bought the model with the camera, is to mount the camera module. So on the bottom of the quad, you'll see we have this little tab right here and these 2 screw holes. Those are going to interface, focus, trying a new camera here, with this tab here and these 2 screw holes. So once your camera's mounted, the last thing you have to do is mount this little antenna holder right here. And you'll see the antenna holder has that screw hole with those 2 tabs on it. And those tabs and that screw hole are going to interface with this hole right here. Just like that. And once that's in, you can go ahead and take your antenna and mount it just like that. And all you need to do is take another one of those small screws, screw it in right through here, and we're ready to fly. Now that the quad's all assembled, one last piece I almost forgot is the phone mount for the transmitter. So you have a ball and socket joint, literally just snapping together like so. A little bit of a snug fit. And you have this little, it's actually a slick little setup. You have this little release pin right here. It's spring loaded. And that locks into this little notch here on the back of the fake antenna aerial here. And this will only go in one way. The top of the hole is smaller than the bottom of the hole. So you'll just take that, slide it down till you hear it click in. And now you have your camera mount or your phone mount on your transmitter. And I'm sure you're wondering, just like I was, how big of a phone this will hold. It will just barely squeeze an iPhone 6 Plus with an Autobox on it. So that's a pretty significant size mount. I think that'll handle pretty much any smartphone you throw at it. Definitely not going to hold a tablet, but it will hold a smartphone pretty securely. Well, there it is, the MJX X101. You know, all in all, first impressions, it definitely seems like it's built pretty well. Obviously, that means nothing if it doesn't fly well. So we're going to run it through its paces. We're going to give you guys a full review of this quadcopter. Now, I know at the beginning of the video I mentioned possibly showing how to install the app for the FPV system on your cell phone. But the more I played around with the app and kind of messed with the features of it, it really deserves its own video to really properly go through how to bind it to the quadcopter, all the features and functions of the application. So what we'll do is we'll put together a video showing just that. It'll be a tutorial and overview on how to use the MJX FPV application for both Android and iOS applications. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Definitely keep an eye out for the full review of this quadcopter. I hope this unboxing and assembly was helpful to someone. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. Definitely leave a comment down below. Pretty excited to be back doing this kind of stuff. Can't wait to hear what you guys think. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.